You know, when you first meet somebody and you're attracted to them, you try to be your best self, right? I mean, you're sort of like a Christmas present. You're wrapped up in fancy paper, you got a big bow, and then in a little while the bow gets lost and paper shreds, and you finally get a chance to look in the box and see what you got. Sometimes it's not exactly what you expected. So, based on that, my older daughter, when she was a theater student at Northwestern, one of her assignments was to create and present a stand-up routine. So her premise was, people break up with you for the very same reason they were attracted to you in the first place. So here's an example. I love you because you're so spontaneous. I am breaking up with you because I never know what you're doing from 1 minute to the next. So, Jim was attracted to me because I'm a free spirit. And he was attractive to me. I was attracted to him because he offered me safety. Well, it didn't take too long after we were married for us to drive each other totally crazy. So, I gotta tell you, Jim and I we're nice people. I mean, we're kind and we're generous, we're well educated, we read hard books, we're Democrats. Thank you. And we both hate liver. No, I mean, we like pate. Who doesn't? But, you know the kind of liver that just sits on a plate and pretends that it's steak? Hate it. Okay. Now, part of the problem was that part of my being this free spirit person was that I also had a sort of casual relationship with money. And I hated housework. And I have a very high comfort level with chaos. None of these traits sit well with somebody who offers you safety. So, one day, Jim decides that he's going to organize my life. It was a unilateral decision. And I really think he did it from keeping himself from killing me in my sleep. So here's what he did. He would make a list of all the things I needed to do in a given day. Yeah, and he would put them in order. And sometimes he would even draw a map. So, I'll give you an example. It's Saturday, I'm going shopping. So he says, Nancy, first, remember to bring the shopping cart. And then you go to Key Foods first and you put all the heavy and bulky stuff in first. And then you double back and you go to the butcher, then you go to the greengrocer, and I had already checked out at shopping cart. So later that night he says to me, so, you got everything done? Sure did. And in order? You betcha. And I am so lying. Because I did everything the way I always do everything. I did what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, and some of the stuff I didn't do at all. But I figured lying was easier than arguing. So a few years later, I had already stopped teaching full-time because I had given birth to these wonderful daughters. And but I had a full part-time job at the Walden School. Now, the Walden School is a private progressive school on Central Park West and 88th Street, about 9 blocks from where we lived. And for some reason, one day I decided that I was going to take the sombrero that my parents had brought back from me from Spain. And it was huge because it was a picadores sombrero, and it even had dried blood on it. And I decided that I was going to take it to Walden School and I was going to use it with my 2 T's that day. Okay, so and I really can't remember why. I thought I would take, who knows why. But anyway, I had my coat on and I had the girls in the stroller, and I'm holding the sombrero, and I've got this bulging heavy book bag, right? And I'm maneuvering my way out the door of our apartment, and Jim says, "Wait!" And he hands me the list. And now he has added something new. He says, "Under no circumstances are you to take any taxis today." Got it? Got it. And I am so lying. Because I have every intention of taking taxis. Because I've got this big sombrero, I've got this book bag. And besides that, I have to go downtown because the third kid is sick and I have to go to her house. There is no way that I'm going to get on a bus or a subway that day. It's not going to happen. But I figure lying is better than arguing. So I leave the kids off at their playgroup, and then I take a cab, thank you very much, to the Walden School. And I teach two of my tutees, and I'm back out on the street on Central Park West to get a cab to go downtown to my last teaching assignment. And it's a typical day on Central Park West. I mean, there are camera crews and buses and cabs and people and cars, and I finally get a cab, and downtown I go and teach my last kid and come back by cab. Okay. So that night, Jim says, "So you got everything done?" "Sure did." "And you didn't take any cabs, right?" "You told me not to." Well, about 2 weeks later, the kids are watching TV in the living room, and I hear them say, "Oh, look, it's Mommy! Look, it's Mommy!" And Jim and I come running out into the living room, and Sesame Street is doing a segment on transportation. So there are planes, and there are trains, and there are boats, and there are ferries, and then there's me holding a sombrero and hailing a cab. And then more planes, more trains, more cabs, more buses, more trucks, and me holding a sombrero and hailing a cab. Well, I have never seen Jim that angry. He did not talk to me for 3 days. Well, about 7 years after I got busted by Sesame Street, I explained to Jim that I was really happy and glad that he had tried to offer me safety, and I appreciated it, but I was going to get a divorce because I felt like I was living in a maximum security prison. Now, that was 50 years ago. And in that 50 years, I have now learned that telling the truth is actually better than lying, and about 1,000 and 5,000 hours of psychotherapy. I've also discovered that Jim and I, we built that maximum security prison together, brick by brick. Thank you.